Hello, host Eric here, host Talking to Famous People. I was watching one of Basement Overlord's videos the other day, and he was talking about the quadras in Socionics and talking about the merry temperament. I am somebody who has a merry temperament. That means I've got Ti and Fe in conjunction with one another. I wonder if we could start our discussion of these temperaments, Basement Overlord, or just Overlord, with the discussion of the merry temperament, what it means, who has it, why, and what kind of medicine they need to take.
Yeah, so I think the way I think of it is that a lot of the people who value extrovert feeling, particularly ESFJs, a lot of their own emotional state requires it is, I guess, it's directed by everyone else's emotional state. So that's why a lot of them don't like being by themselves, because when they're by themselves, they don't really know, I guess, how they feel. So that's why they're so focused on a merry atmosphere, because their emotional state is reflected upon through everyone else's. So if everyone else is happy, that makes them feel happy. If everyone else is sad, that makes them feel sad. Whereas people who value FI, extrovert or introvert feeling, it's not as much determined by everyone else's feelings. It could be a little bit, but for the most part, especially you can see this, I think, in INTJs and ISTJs, their feelings are pretty much determined by themselves.
Okay, so which types are the merry temperament types? I'm one, that's ENTP. You're one, right? ISTP.
Yeah.
Who else?
So it's ENTP, INTP, ESFJ, ISFJ, and then ENFJ, INFJ, and then ESTP, ISTP.
So it's half the types are merry.
Yeah.
And the other half is called what?
Serious. Except here's the thing, they're not always serious. Like INTJs, a lot of people think that INTJs are like really serious people, and they're actually not. Like a lot of the INTJs I know, because they have that dominant introverted intuition, or actually can be kind of funny, because they just have that perceiving function. They can like have sort of a wacky sense of humor.
Okay, so half the types, we're looking at eight merry, 8 serious. What's another division line like that you can explain about Socionics that maybe people don't immediately think about?
Well, the next one is Judicious versus Decisive, and that's NE versus SE.
Okay, can you explain that while I go put more ice in my cup?
Yeah. So basically, Judicious is governed by extrovert intuition, which is they're trying to see all the different possibilities that, I guess, certain ideas can hold. And so if they're decisive, that's really restricting how much they can go off of different ideas. They want to be judicious in the fact that they can go from one topic to the next without clearly defining a definitive answer to whatever they're talking about. Whereas decisive, they have extroverted sensing, which means that they're looking to narrow down an idea to the one answer that they think is most correct. And that ties in with introverted intuition as well. Introverted intuition wants to just narrow down everything and condense it down to one truth.
Space objects, I hate them. Okay, so we just talked about what were those ones called again?
Judicious versus decisive.
Okay, so I'm judicious, obviously, which means I like to think more about shit rather than make a firm decision right away, right?
Yeah.
And SE is decisive. Do you have another such dichotomy?
There's aristocratic versus democratic, and that's not tied to a function. That's tied to the quadras. So like alpha and gamma are democratic, and beta and delta are aristocratic.
And does that mean like they believe in their relationship to hierarchies?
No, so what that refers to is that Um, aristocrat. Hold on. Well, let me think. So, I think I haven't read that much about it because it's not tied to a function, so it's kind of confusing. But um, aristocratic, they're more likely. The only thing I've read about is that aristocrat types are more likely to judge people based on other people that are similar to that person that they already know. So for me, a lot of times the way I type people is by typing them based on the fact that I know people who I think are that type and they seem similar, so they are that type. So it's like, okay, I know an INFJ who's like this. This person is like this other person, so they're an INFJ. Whereas Democratic are more likely to look at them individually as one person and decide what type they are based on that person's traits.
I think I'm a little bit likely to do both of those, but it's an interesting distinction. Okay, well, anything else you'd like to say about these sort of dichotomies with an Engram based on Overlord? Thank you for providing the information you've already provided, but if there's any other interesting dichotomies of this sort, let us know before we end this video.
Well, the distinction I have is that they're values and not behavior. So you can be a merry in a merry quadra and be a serious person for the most part of your life, but that's not necessarily what you value. So like you see this a lot with INTPs. They're in a merry quadra, but they might not appear like a very gregarious, merry person. But that's what they, at the end of the day, value. They just have a hard time producing that themselves.
I see.
Wait, do you know how other quadras view other quadras?
Yeah, I read this. I read there's different ways each one values the other. So like alpha, for example, alpha likes beta, but sometimes they don't like sort of the edgy atmosphere, that the edgier atmosphere that beta might like entail, like the competitive atmosphere. I think beta views. I mean, I could go. Like, do you want me to go through like a specific one? Because there's like a lot of combinations.
Yeah, go through them like you're just doing right there. That's interesting.
Okay. Alpha. I haven't read them all because I mostly only care about the one I specifically care about. You know,
right?
The one I'm in. But beta views alpha as cool for the most part, but they might not like the fact that they just want to sit around and talk about intellectual subjects versus actually going out and doing something like competitive maybe.
Right.
Beta views gamma as they can appear overly formal and might be really just decisively harsh towards certain people that they have decided they don't want to talk to. Beta views delta. Well, so betas view delta as like somewhat self-righteous in their own beliefs.
Who's delta? Who's in delta?
ISTJs, ESTJs, ENFPs, and INFPs.
Okay.
So, and the thing is that betas and deltas are just diametrically opposed to each other because they share no valued functions. You know, they don't share any of the same functions. So those are the ones that most don't get along. And alphas and gammas are diametrically opposed to each other. Gamma is INTJ, ENTJ, ISFP, and ESFP.
Yeah, I've actually read that that alphas view gammas as like too serious and harsh, and that gammas view alphas as too playful and like goofy.
Yeah, that's exactly correct.
Well, regardless of that, I get along just fine with that quadrant on talking to famous people. So I don't know what to say about that. I think the ESTJs are not people that are going to come do this anyway, right?
Well, the thing I focus on is the fact that in Socionics, all of the intertype relations focus on the negatives because they just assume if things are going well, then they're going well. It's almost like they're diagnosing a problem. So, like, if it's going well, then that's awesome. But if it's not going well, here's the reason why. It's because deltas think, or gammas think that alphas are too playful, and alphas think that gammas are too serious.
Well, before we end this video, actually, let's do a separate video. Thank you for watching Talking with Famous People. This has been a fascinating exploration of the Enneagram. I want to talk about the concept of the Quadra General as deduced from mishearing Basement Overlord's video. I like the idea, though, and I want to run through a little hypothesis on it right now.